Hey, this is Rue, and today I'm reviewing American Truck Simulator after 100%. As you'd expect from the title, American Truck Simulator is an open world simulation game that lets you drive trucks and cargo across the United States. As you earn money, you can customize and upgrade your truck, buy new vehicles and trailers, buy and expand garages, and hire drivers to work for you. Overall, I've really enjoyed this game and I think it can really click with a certain type of person. In this review, I'm going to look at a little bit of the background of the game, how it plays, things that I like, a few things that I didn't like, and then finish with a discussion of DLC, value, and overall thoughts. For the purposes of brevity, I'm going to shorten American Truck Simulator to ATS and its older sibling, European Truck Simulator 2, to ETS2. ATS is developed by Czech studio SCS Software and originally released in 2016. SCS is not new to this genre. They entered the driving simulation space in 2002 and have released a number of games since then. ATS is currently only available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. There's been talk of a console port, but nothing confirmed as far as I can tell. Just like its European equivalent, ATS has seen continuous development since launch and the release of a large number of DLC, adding trucks, paint jobs, new cargo types, and most significantly, new states. The base game originally launched with just California and Nevada available, with Arizona being later added as a free DLC expansion. Subsequent paid DLC has covered the entirety of the western US and has started moving into the South and lower Midwest. This review includes all of the DLC released as of August 2024, most recently Nebraska. There's a hardcore fan base for these types of games with awesome driving rigs and thousands of hours in-game. I'm not one of those people. I'm just a PC gamer who likes a lot of simulation type games, and I'm going to approach this review from that perspective. In fact, I have a few confessions that'll probably drive purists nuts. First, I've played the entirety of this game with keyboard controls. As cool as it sounds, I really don't have the space for a wheel and pedal setup, and I don't play that many other driving or racing games. Second, I spent the vast majority of my playtime in the external camera view. Inside the cab is great, but I like looking around at the cities and countryside and various landmarks. And lastly, all my experience with ATS is in single player with no mods installed. There is a multiplayer mode that lets you form convoys with other players, and to my understanding, a thriving mod community, but I can't speak to either of these. Defining 100% in a game like ATS is difficult due to its huge world and open sandbox nature. I've played for around 138 hours and visited every state, city, and completed all the achievements currently available. I haven't explored every possible stretch of road or seen every viewpoint, although I do have most of them. Here are the game statistics showing total deliveries and time in game. I will point out for anybody trying to get all the achievements, there is one special heavy cargo achievement that is much easier to get without DLC. Here's a look at the game map with all currently available DLC. Roads that I've taken are marked in yellow, and roads that I haven't driven on yet are marked in gray. With all that out of the way, let's get into an overview of the game. The game offers several different job types. Quick jobs let you take the role of a driver for hire. On accepting the job, you'll be placed in a truck with cargo that's ready to go, and gas and repairs will be paid for by your employer. Freight jobs put you in more of an owner-operator role and require you to bring your own rig to the customer and hook up to the customer's trailer. Lastly, cargo jobs require you to bring both your own truck as well as a specific trailer for whichever cargo type you're picking up. In both freight and cargo jobs, you're responsible for repairs to your vehicle as well as fuel expenses. As you would expect, pay rates are higher for freight and cargo jobs. You'll have to keep in mind the horsepower and configuration of your rig when choosing heavy loads. Quick play will put you in an appropriate vehicle, but if you're bringing your own rig, you'll want to keep this in mind. The game does warn you if you're trying to pick up a heavy load with an inappropriate vehicle. You can select a city if you want to see loads originating there, and you can use the text search if you want to find a specific cargo, origin, or destination. This can be helpful for getting some of the achievements. There are a variety of sorting options available here as well: total pay, pay per mile, route length, cargo weight, and so on. If you accept a quick job, you'll be teleported to the start point. Other jobs require you to actually bring your truck to the customer. If you don't feel like driving across the map just to start a job, the game does offer a fast travel system to most discovered cities for a small fee based on distance traveled. Once you get to your customer and have the load hooked up, you'll have to take it to the destination. The game has a GPS navigation system which is extremely helpful. Your route can be anything from a short drop-off across the same city to marathon transcontinental journeys. However, for obvious reasons, these trips don't take as long as they would in real life. Outside of city areas, in-game highways and world distances are compressed at around a 1 to 20 ratio. This means that 1 hour in-game is usually equivalent to about 3 minutes of time in real life. Even with this time compression, you can still have some epic journeys. A trip between Houston and Seattle would take around 34 hours in-game, which comes out to a little under 2 hours of real time. And you won't just be driving nonstop. You'll have to stop at way stations, California border checkpoints, gas stations, and rest when your fatigue meter is full. The game features extensive simulation elements, a vehicle damage and repair system, traffic, accidents and road closures, law enforcement and tickets, weather, a day-night cycle, and so on. One of the DLCs, the Special Transport Pack, offers a twist on the traditional job experience. This pack offers a series of oversized loads across each state. You have 2 escort vehicles, one leading and one trailing, and since you aren't allowed to pass the lead car, you're basically speed limited to around 30 or 40 miles per hour. Most intersections and ramps will be blocked off, but maneuvering these massive loads can be a fun challenge. These jobs are over shorter distances and usually offer a very good price per mile, which can be helpful while trying to earn money in the early game. When you complete any job, you get graded and paid based on whether you made the delivery on time and if there was any damage to the cargo. You also get experience for successful deliveries, as well as a small amount for free roaming the game world. You can use these experience points to get additional ratings, allowing you to carry different types of hazardous cargo, take longer distance deliveries, improve the fuel economy of your truck, and so on. You can also customize and upgrade your truck extensively, including engine and transmission, fuel tanks, cab size, paint color, mirrors, and so on. You can also buy trucks, either new from various dealers or on a used marketplace. You start with a small garage in the city of your choice, but over time you can expand that garage as well as buy additional ones in other cities. This management side of the game is optional and you don't have to mess with it if you don't want to. It's perfectly viable to play this game as a one-person operation, and that's what I did for the majority of my playtime. ATS doesn't have a narrative story or campaign, which I actually appreciate. This type of open-world sandbox sim is usually better without a tacked-on narrative. Your goals are whatever you want them to be. Get all the achievements, make as much money as possible, or just relax and cruise across the open world. There's no wrong answer. Let's get into the things I liked about ATS. There's a lot to like here. The basic gameplay loop of picking up goods and driving them across the map is fun and kind of relaxing. There's a category of games that require enough focus to be interesting, but leave enough mental room for you to enjoy doing something else at the same time, listening to music or a podcast, or watching a video on a second monitor. ATS is near the top of the list for me in this category. The game is straightforward and relatively forgiving. It's easy to earn money, and if you mess up and crash your truck or get a speeding ticket, it's usually not that big of a deal. If you want to focus and try to get a perfect delivery, on time, no damage, no tickets, you can, but the game doesn't require perfection outside of a handful of optional achievements. What puts ATS above most of its competition in the simulation genre is the attention to detail and care that the devs have put into the game world. Different parts of the US feel very distinct from each other. Driving in the Pacific Northwest across forested hills and rivers is totally different from driving in the desert of New Mexico or the flat farmlands of Kansas. I've been able to compare real-life road trips to those taken in-game, and the game does surprisingly well. Even within a region, the devs do a great job of showing state-to-state differences. Signs, speed limits, road conditions, which states have started to use roundabouts versus traffic lights, and so on. Although some liberties have been taken due to map compression, the devs try to assign accurate highway and interstate numbers whenever possible. The major industries of a city or area are shown in-game, and you get to interact with a lot of it. For example, Boeing's huge aircraft factory complex in Everett, Washington is in-game, albeit with a slightly different company name. These aren't just cosmetic. You'll be delivering plenty of cargo to and from these locations. Lots of major port and rail connections are also represented. The game is chock full of little bits of world building and atmosphere. When you go past farm fields, you can see tractors driving and giant irrigation systems slowly moving. When you go past small local airfields, you can see little prop planes taking off and landing. When you approach major cities and airports, you can see big commercial jets flying overhead. The cities themselves are done quite well and look significantly different from one another. The devs tried to capture the unique characteristics of each city, whether that's the downtown skyline and huge interchanges of a city like Dallas, or the local charm of a historic district or courthouse in a small town in Kansas. The devs included two features that draw attention to some of the unique sites shown in-game: the viewpoint and photo trophy systems. Viewpoints are represented by a little video camera symbol, and if you stop your truck on them, you can press enter to be shown a short cinematic sequence for the area in question. These viewpoints can be anything from a large factory to a bridge, a dam, a national park, a historic site, or even a whole city. The photo trophies are similar but require you to take an in-game screenshot and are usually reserved for smaller spots. There are also some unmarked hidden roads that you can find by exploring. Sometimes these are shortcuts or just a scenic detour. The game rewards advanced planning, particularly if you want to avoid running out of gas or falling asleep at the wheel. As you play, and particularly on the longer jobs, you'll be keeping an eye on the in-game map, your fatigue state, and your gas tank. Depending on the density of where you are, there can be significant distances between gas stations and rest stops. I've gotten ticketed for falling asleep at the wheel more than once from trying to push one stop too far. I also appreciate the level of support SCS has put into ATS over the years. We're going to get into DLC and value later, but even for customers not buying DLC, this game has seen significant improvements, most recently a major UI and graphics update. One of the most dated areas of the game, California, is getting a free rework for all customers. Without question, there's a lot to like in ATS, but it's not a perfect game. Let's get into a few things I didn't like. First, the game engine and AI can be a little rough around the edges. AI drivers will pull out in front of you and try to merge into you even when you have the right of way. I guess you could make an argument that this is sort of realistic, but it feels more frustrating than fun, particularly if you're trying for a perfect delivery. The physics engine has some problems as well. If you play the game as intended, following traffic laws, staying on the road, avoiding collisions, it holds up pretty well. But if you try to push the boundaries at all, you realize the physics engine does not have much complexity. For example, most wooden gates are essentially immovable objects. If you try to ram one of these with any speed, the result is not going to be what you expect. Crash animations in general can be kind of funky. It's clear the focus of the development work went into locations and world, and I'm actually okay with that. This is not a AAA title that has the budget to try to do everything. The other thing I didn't like about ATS is a bit more serious, and that has to do with the old states versus new states. The production values for recent DLC, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and so on, are much higher than that of the original game states, California and Nevada. I'm not sure if this is a function of developer experience, engine enhancement, better tools, higher budget, or all of the above. I started playing ATS around the release of the Texas DLC and set up my headquarters on the eastern side of the game map. I became sort of accustomed to the care and level of detail that went into the newer DLC. By the time I hit California, I was in for a bit of a shock. It felt really basic and dated. To their credit, the devs are aware of this problem and are in the later stages of an extensive California rework. This rework is partially done. The northern two-thirds of the state, north of about Bakersfield, has been completed and feels much better. San Francisco in particular has been massively improved. Southern California, LA, and San Diego still needs attention, as well as Vegas and some other parts of Nevada. Overall, neither of the things I disliked are major issues, and I think the good far outweighs the bad with ATS. Let's move into a discussion of value and then some overall thoughts. As far as value, let's start with the basics. The base game of ATS costs $20 US, with sales down to as low as $2. Each additional state costs around $12, but older states will often go on sale to around $4. Texas is priced higher at $18, but that's such a big state with a lot of content, I don't have a problem with it. There are a series of multi-state bundles that include cosmetic DLC and reduce the price slightly. Overall, if you're looking to buy the complete game with all DLC and it's not in a sale phase, you'd be looking at around $180 to $190, depending on if you skip cosmetic DLC. I'm aware this genre can also be a hobby that people can drop thousands on, building lifelike rigs. If you're spending thousands on a rig, then dropping a couple $100s on a full game is less significant. But for a majority of people, especially those new to the genre, $190 is a lot of money. Now, things are much better if you can wait for a sale. Getting the base game plus all available states is around half that price, $90. If you're really on a budget, the most cost-effective way would be to wait for a sale but only get the base game and older DLC at maximum discount, which for state expansions is around $4. As you can see from this chart, new DLC does not get significant sales until several years after release. Past value, it's hard not to be impressed with the consistent level of quality SCS has put into its DLC. This is reflected in the Steam review percentages. To get this level of positive ratings across this much DLC is an achievement in itself. For comparison, let's look at the DLC offerings for EU4, a game in a different genre but attracting a similar kind of hardcore fan base and another studio relying on extended DLC support over a number of years. Due to a series of decisions that deserve and will probably get their own video, EU4's DLC has far lower positive review percentages across the board. If you're not sure about the game, there's a demo, but unfortunately the demo shows the worst, most dated part of the game, California, before any of the reworks or interface updates. The demo still gives you a basic feel for the game, but it doesn't show the game's best side by any means. SCS would do well to redo the demo when they're done with the California rework. Before we get to the conclusion, let's do a brief comparison with ETS2. This could really be a video on its own, but I think it's worth talking about here since some people may not have the time or money to try both games. For reference, I have all non-cosmetic DLC available for both games, and as far as playtime, I have about 30 hours in ETS2 and about 138 hours in ATS. ETS2 and ATS feel very different, even more than I was expecting. You definitely notice similarities: UI, job system, game engine, physics silliness, and so on, but there are a number of differences as well. These differences are based on real-life ones: truck type and size, city density, speed limits, geographic variety, and so on. Going into these games, I thought I was going to like ETS2 more due to the variety of countries, higher city density, number of historic sites, and so on. If Steam player counts are anything to go by, more people do like ETS2. But for me personally, I prefer ATS. ETS2 has the same dated areas problem parts of ATS has, but even worse. The UK in particular feels awful. I don't know if this is a reflection of the highway-centric nature of American cities, but ATS cities just feel more lifelike and distinct to me. For example, ATS Dallas and Kansas City feel closer to the real thing than, say, ETS2 Paris or London. Newer ETS2 DLC is much better. Iberia and the Balkans look great, but the overall map quality feels lower than ATS. Aspects of ETS2 also fall into the realistic but not particularly fun category for me, such as lower speed limits and extremely frequent toll stations and border checkpoints. Ultimately, both are great games, and this is going to come down to personal preference, but from my perspective, if I was going to recommend one game between the two, it would be ATS. So, let's sum all this up. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that American Truck Simulator is a triumph, particularly for a medium-sized studio not even located in the United States. That they nail so many aspects of Americana and the feel of a road trip across the US speaks well to the developers' research and dedication to their craft. There's a reason this game and ETS2 have such high ratings on Steam and retain so many players so long after release. This type of game is never going to be for all players, but for those who do enjoy it, there is near infinite replayability. There are people who have put thousands of hours into this game or ETS2, and I understand why. I hope SCS continues releasing new states. I'd love to be able to go cross-country from New York City to Los Angeles. I'd even be interested in going beyond the lower 48 if they want to include Mexico, Canada, and Alaska. If this type of game seems interesting at all, I definitely recommend checking it out and seeing if it clicks with you. If you wait for a sale, getting the base game for just $2 has to be one of the best bang for the buck values in PC gaming. Anyways, that about wraps this one up. If you enjoy this sort of content, feel free to like and subscribe. This is by no means a trucking simulation only channel, but I do plan to go over future ATS DLC as well as feature ETS2 content in the future. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.